Good morning, Gardenia! Happy Wednesday. Today is February 24th, 2021. That's right. 2020 is still over. Very, very over. Dead and gone. All of its problems in the past swept away, irrelevant. And yet today, somehow, we find ourselves starting the show with a COVID block. But before we do that, quick set of promos. If you're new to the show, check out Adam versus the Man. Even if you're not new to the show, you've never been, go to adamversustheman.com. Most importantly, if you want to support the show there, check out Patreon. Click on the link there, patreon.com/Adam versus the Man. $10 a month. That's where it's at. You can be an okay, you can be a good, or you can be a better patron. Our better ones give us $10 a month. And so they get into the producers club and they get to chat with the whole core team and help develop the show. And man, do we have a big pile of headlines that came out of the producers club. Thanks to some of our new members who are very active in there. Thank you very much. And if you give us $50 a month, you can be one of our best patrons. But if you want to connect with the show and you don't want to give us money or give us a good comment or engage or call in or whatever, right there is the public broadcast channel. And even if you're in the Producers Club, you should be on this too, because this is where we post the links for the show every day. And it's a great news digest for the reasons that, like, when I was a statist, I used to enjoy reading Drudge. Now I'm like, I'm glad someone's doing a set of links and headlines like this that I get to see every day. So another way to support the show, if you're at adamversustheman.com, there's an awesome store that CJ has set up. And if you happen to be one of our better patrons, you get 15% off and free shipping. Or really, anybody in the Producers Club gets access to that. And you can win membership in the Producers Club today with the best comment. I don't have any criteria. We're doing a COVID block. We're doing a big grab bag block. We got a lot of good news that we put off to Friday today, like really cool nature stuff. There's a freaking yellow penguin. Don't click away. Don't click away. We'll get to it on Friday. But yeah, there's a not quite a. It's a really interesting pigment anomaly situation. But we got a lot of cool stories like that coming up on our good news shows we do every Friday. But today, make me laugh. Producer CJ, executive producer CJ Abernathy, coming to us from South Dakota, is going to be watching your comments throughout the show and getting them up on screen and interrupting me as much as he can with your nonsense and silliness. And Craig saying, "Good day, Freedom Fam." Yes, good day. But we got a big COVID block to jump into. Oh, and of course, one other way to support the show, if you like cigars as much as I do, go to cigarfederation.com, where promo code Adam10, ADAM10 gets you 10% off. And maybe, just maybe, well, we'll see right now. I don't know. It's been lonely here in Gardenia, and haven't had a lot. Although I should say we have a special guest in the country today. Luke Wenke is with us. Might be stopping in to say hi for the last part of the show. We'll see. But Luke is on a bit of a driving adventure, and this is Luke Wenke of the Olean, New York Libertarian Party, of course. As you may know from some of his Twitter and party activism. So we're gonna have some fun today. But haven't been doing cigars and sunsets. I mean, it's one thing for me to go out and hang out with some friends and smoke cigars on the lanai and live broadcast a fun conversation. It's different when it's me and there's snow on the ground and I'm outside by myself going, man, it's really too cold to smoke a cigar outside right now. But if you want to get that going again, buy some cigars, send me some notes. Adam at thefreedomline.com. You can always get a hold of me, and we are always. I mean, I'm an activist, but I'm always calling for volunteers for projects I've got going on. And right now, there's some really exciting ones launching Homefront Battle Buddies, and we got the logo. I don't know, CJ. Maybe CJ wants to pull that up. I'm sorry, I didn't have that handy. But in the producer, let me see. I'll get it. I want to put this on screen because I'm proud of this logo. This is pretty cool. Where we've got. Let's see. Let me get it. I'll direct chat it to CJ, and then CJ will be able to put this on the screen. And so this is for our organization, Homefront Battle Buddies, and our mission is to create a community of veterans helping each other pursue alternative healing and transitioning to civilian life through online community and in-person retreats. So if you want to get involved with this, send me an email. Or Stephen, our executive director, Stephen McClure, you've probably seen on the show, Afghanistan Bronze Star Navy veteran, Stephen, Stephen, Stephen with a PH, at thefreedomline.com. And there is CJ with that awesome logo. So it's a med pouch, like desert cami style med pouch that says Homefront Battle Buddies. You got three symbols: the clasped hands, the red cross, and the cannabis leaf. And I think those are a great way of symbolizing really what we're about. So if you want to get involved, that's one thing. Here in Gardenia, the Gardenia Sovereignty Project, there's a lot of stuff going on: construction, alternative construction, off-grid living, and how we present that as a micronation project to the world with the gardenofreedom.com. Already got that part, but you can find us on Instagram at the Garden of Freedom. Got some really cool pictures up there. We'll get some more up with I should have posted the picture. I got Luke sitting on the geodesic throne, so we'll get that up later today and more. So get those comments in, and we are going to cut. We get another Robinsburg story. Hate to say it. You've been trolled. Good morning, fellow Status. Thank you, Mr. Status. Gemma Evans with us again. Good morning, Illinois 4545. Good day, everyone, and Adam. All right, well, everyone, thank you. G.I. Mary Jane looks great. All right, well, so let's get into the COVID block, shall we? Welcome to Adam versus the Rona. None of what we are about to say is to be taken as medical advice or advice of any other kind, or even seriously. No, we're talking about Corona publicly, and we don't want to get censored. So this is a joke. This is parody. Yeah, nothing we're about to say is serious. Even the stuff that I'm reading from apparently Fox News, Vice, The Hill, Yahoo, Wall Street Journal, they're all parody sites now because they have clearly questioned and contradicted the advice of the World Health Organization and local health authorities in ways that might lead people to not follow their directives. And that'll get you pulled on YouTube if you're not the Wall Street Journal or Yahoo or Vice or The Hill or Fox News or CNN. Then you can put whatever you want on YouTube. But if you're independent media, if you're challenging the narrative, no, heaven forbid. Speaking of challenging or at least shaping the narrative, Fox News has this headline to kick off our COVID block today. Chinese state-owned media use Times Square video screen for ads on coronavirus response. Xinhua News Agency has operated China Screen since 2011. So this isn't like a new propaganda mechanism by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely a new message. And I mean, as a libertarian, I got to start a sentence like that before 10 minutes into the show. As a libertarian, I see stuff like this. I mean, government spending on propaganda, and almost like more than the propaganda pisses me off, it's the misallocation of resources. Like, wait, you're spending money that you stole from taxpayers on propaganda to make yourself look good so that you can steal more from taxpayers. There's something it's deeply psychologically insidious about that that's so manipulative. But let's see what they have to say about Corona specifically. Chinese state-owned media ran messages across a New York City billboard urging unity in the fight against COVID-19, even as Beijing continues to resist cooperating with the World Health Organization investigations into the origin of the virus. The so-called China Screen in Times Square has run images for the Xinhua News Agency, the official state-run press agency of Beijing, since 2011. The screen usually displays products and travel promotions for China, according to USA China Daily, but it has recently displayed a different message. What followed was a series of messages that talked about the progress made in fighting the virus, such as noting the 48.52% recovery rate and cruise ships passing inspections. Yeah, do those numbers mean anything anymore? Oh, well, our recovery rate is 48.52%. Oh, that's great, because it was 48.48% last week, and this 0.04% jump from week to week is clearly a huge improvement. But there's new strains, there's new variants, so our government is very effective at fighting Corona. But Corona just keeps coming. No mutant strains, new variations, new deadly variants of the virus. Right? Yeah. One panel in the ad reads, quote, China has helped more than 80 countries and territories, will continue to fight the virus hand in hand with the international community The message adds, along with pictures of other countries, including Italy, Korea, and Japan. The messages of unity and cooperation strike a strange tone, however, after Beijing reportedly refused to turn over raw patient data to World Health Organization investigators in Wuhan. Now, it's only a strange tone for people who are paying attention to that level of minutia of the government's response to corona, like who's cooperating at this with this and this. I mean, they're all sequestering data, and this is I have to go back because this is one of the things that really should piss everyone off and piss me off from the beginning about this, is that Donald Trump ordered the CDC to conduct deliberations in private and secret, excuse me, and there have been repeated instances of data not being properly shared, to the point where you go, I can't really trust any of these numbers, certainly not coming from government. And I think when the general public, why do they say this is it's a strange tone? Well, for most of the public, it's just another note of propaganda. Oh, yeah, the Chinese government, they're saying they're looking good because of this. Well, that's good. I like them claiming they're looking good because of this. It's better than them claiming that they're looking good because they, I don't know, took over the world or stamped out terrorism or, stuff the American government brags about. The 4-week investigation into the origins of the coronavirus in China hit a roadblock with the patient data. Investigators insisted that their work was robust, but some leaders have insisted that China needs to do more. Yeah. But the propaganda about this, like, what does it cost? I want to know, like, is it these Times Square screens? I mean, let's see. According to this story, the billboard is owned and leased by Sherwood Outdoor, a subsidiary of Sherwood Equities Incorporated. And I mean, I probably should have done my research before this story and said, like, well, how much do they pay for this? And it's probably a complicated answer, right? Well, they pay this for the rent and this for the content and this for the taxes, and they get this tax break for the government of New York because they're the government of China. But who knows? But it's easily in the tens of millions of dollars. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a safe ballpark to say that you have a video billboard in Times Square, like the most expensive real estate and advertising space maybe in the entire world. If you're a Chinese taxpayer, do you want your government spending tens of millions of dollars on propaganda in the United States? Do you want the Chinese government to be investing like that? I mean, it's one thing to put out press releases and say the world should know these things or post information publicly, but do you really want your government spending tens of millions of dollars on propagandizing Americans instead of, I don't know, helping people who are suffering from the virus, if their narrative is even halfway true about that? Speaking of halfway true, Biden to order flags to half staff to mark 500,000 virus deaths. This is from thehill.com. Heaven forbid we be scientific or make logical or rational appeals. No, let's make emotional appeals. Let's remind people have died. And the thing about this number, 500,000, I have to go back every time we do a Corona block and deconstruct this, going back to 6 months ago or something like that, when the CDC came out and said, only 6% of COVID deaths are actually just COVID deaths. The other 94% have some other contributing cause or significant factor aside from that. So you can't take that down. How many then? It's a little subjective, right? Where do you draw the line? How many of those deaths were really COVID? And from the way that we've hacked this apart and looked at the numbers and how many false reports there have been, and of course this number is based on the assumptions of some of our numbers at least being somewhat accurate or reflective of reality. And it's definitely more than 6%. You can't say, well, someone died with COVID and they also had diabetes. Well, the diabetes might not have killed them. COVID could have been the primary cause of death in that sense, or in that case. But if you factor out all of those, you see how many of those people on that list had multiple pre-existing conditions, then it's not 6%, it's not 100%, but somewhere between 50 and 40, 50, 30%, something like that. So even this 500,000 number is largely bullshit. Illinois 4545 writes in the comments at Adam Kokesh, do you think that the virus will magically disappear and Biden will be the savior. It will get worse and create more tyranny / lockdown. Combination of both. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. Can't it be both? I mean, if you recall, even for a while, Trump was being portrayed as the savior, but he seemed to have he took the honest position before, or rather, at the beginning of the crisis, saying, "Hey guys, it's kind of like the flu. At least it's on that scale. Let's deal with it rationally." And then a month later, he had a campaign ad at the White House press briefing room bragging about how much the Trump administration has done in response to COVID to tamp down the criticism that he hasn't been doing enough. So with Biden, you asked that question, Illinois 4545, as if it's a matter of simple prediction, and it's a little more than that. And I always hesitate to predict things based on individual action and individual decisions and the processing of data by the superclass, by the string pullers. And do they want Biden to be the hero and the savior, and COVID kind of goes away? Or are they going to keep it going to keep the racket going, and so on and so forth? And I'm really glad you said both and gave me that option, because they are going to. I mean, I think, and we have a story here in our COVID blog about the timing of this thing. What's the return to normal? And it's not that's going to return to normal, but it's going to sort of fade into the background with the flu. Instead of having this constant, news paranoia, it's just going to fade into the background as another layer of tyranny that we've kind of come to accept. So Biden will also deliver remarks at a candle lighting ceremony later Monday and hold a moment of silence. Tonight's event, so White House press secretary said tonight's events, including the president's remarks, will highlight the magnitude of loss this milestone marks for the American people and so many families across the country, who will also speak to the power of the American people to turn the tide on this pandemic by working together, following public health guidelines, and getting vaccinated as soon as they are eligible. Now, the emotional appeal of this is such that I don't want to. I don't really want to blame Biden. I mean, I obviously he's the criminal in chief here, but who it makes me think that this is a reflection of the paradigm. Like Alexis de Tocqueville said in Democracy in America, 1831, in a democracy, people will get the government they deserve. And I think that's not just true of democracies, but really all governments. And they don't necessarily have to have the consent of the governed to be forcing or to be a government, but they have to have a critical mass of people going along with it. And so in a way, I wanted to come up with sort of like a simpler explanation for the state, right? It's that we are still primarily emotionally driven creatures. And I don't want to ever sort of take that away, because you could always say primarily emotionally driven, no matter how rational and reasonable and logical you are. At some point, at the core of your being, there's an emotional drive, whether it's the will to live or to love or to not be alone or to help or to serve or whatever the case may be. And over time, humans have gotten more rational. And so the appeals of the state have to be at least a little more grounded in fact, at least a little more reasonable, a little more believable. But at this point, holy crap! Like, this is really this is a big bitter pill to swallow. Speaking of swallowing, no, we're not going to sex jokes. The Charlotte Observer: woman claiming to have COVID blows in deputy's face, gets assault charge. North Carolina cops say, yeah. North Carolina woman was charged with assault after she allegedly blew into sheriff deputy's face and said she had COVID-19. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office said the incident happened Sunday evening as Jasmine Louise McLean, 27, was being booked into jail. Quote, while being processed into the jail, McLean is accused of blowing into the face of the processing officer twice after admitting she had tested positive for COVID 8 days earlier. The sheriff's office said in a news release she was charged with assault on a government official. How dare you challenge one of the king's men? They are a protected class. Don't you know that, Miss McLean? And in a case like this, if this is the new standard and you can charge someone with assault for breathing on you, don't be within 6 feet of them. If it's your business to assault strangers and kidnap them and lock them in cages like it is for police in America today, uh, wear appropriate protective gear according to your own bullshit mythology about COVID, if that's the case. Go out and wear a face mask, like a full face shield or a bubble. I hate to say, because this could get scarier. But I've talked about the sort of worst possible scenario with Corona is that they bully us into bubble boy world, where you can't leave the house without being fully suited in a hazmat outfit with a bubble helmet on or something like that. And it might be cops that are doing it first. Think about it. Who's geared up to go get in your face and assault you? I mean, who's responsible for the majority of assaults on American streets? Obviously, it's the United States police force. The United States. All the police in the United States commit assault on a regular basis. Anytime you engage in an act of force against someone who's acting peacefully, someone who's doing drugs or violating a regulation, someone who's not committing a crime except on paper, then you're the criminal. And it's just kind of funny that now tables turned, and still it's Jasmine McClain ends up going to jail and facing charges on this. From Vice News, now we go to the vaccine. What's up with the vaccine? Isn't the vaccine going to save us from this whole thing? I don't know. Vice News. LA's rich somehow got COVID vaccines meant for minority communities. And you go, somehow. You mean by operating the system as normal, as promised, as designed to favor the rich and disfavor the poor? Oh, is the illusion wearing thin, Vice News? Are you finally? Oh my gosh, my vision of government as our Lord and Savior and full of nothing but people who love us and want the best for us is being shattered because LA's rich somehow got COVID vaccines meant for minority communities. Appointment codes designated for largely Black and Latino communities ended up getting spread among wealthier people. That's right. California's plan for vaccine equity went off the rails in LA recently when appointment codes meant for largely Black and Latino communities ended up getting snatched up and spread among wealthier people outside of those areas, some of whom reportedly got appointments. The vaccine program set up by Governor Gavin Newsom's administration designated a block of appointments at California State's LA campus and the Oakland Coliseum accessible only via specific access codes that were shared with community groups and nonprofits. According to the LA Times, which first reported the story, more than 200,000 community organizations contacted the state about participating in the program. California Office of Emergency Services spokesperson Brian Ferguson told the Times. Yeah. Did they really not think that those codes were going to get out? So they went out, group chats, messages, at least 3 access codes began appearing in affluent and professional social networks, according to the Times. Although it's unclear how aware the people sharing them were that the appointments were meant for poor and largely Black and Latino communities. And the sad thing about this virus vaccine dilemma is that they've got people convinced, like, hey, if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to die. Or if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to get the virus and you're not going to be healthy. Or you're not going to be able to go out. And you go, wait a second, this isn't like a virus that, survives on surfaces for a year. And if someone with COVID touched anything in your home, you could get it a year later. Or it doesn't have some sort of, out of the norm virality or contagious quality. So why do we go to this extreme of finding vaccines when really, just stop and think about it, everybody, for just a second, please. The vaccine is not 100% protection against the virus because it mutates, at least in part, and because it just doesn't work to 100% effectiveness, like most vaccines don't have 100% effectiveness. But it does have 100% effectiveness, but not being around people who have transmittable diseases. If you're really that afraid of the virus and you think, well, oh my God, I need to go get these vaccines designated for poor people, and I need to do whatever it takes. And we've covered stories already of people doing crazy, desperate things in order to get the vaccine. And it's like, Are you working that hard to be lazy? Because all you have to do is practice the good hygiene and distancing, and you're safe. In fact, safer than with the vaccine. Of course, this is granting some of the premises of the danger of the virus myth in the first place. And I don't know why I'm pointing this out to her. Why, why address people having an emotional response with a logic appeal, right? But hopefully, pointing this out is enough to. I mean, I know in my audience, like everybody here is smart enough to see this for what it is. But the and by the way, just my general position on the vaccine isn't oh my god, never take it, I'm an anti-vaxxer, don't take any vaccines. No, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I mean, generally speaking, I'm pro-vaccine. Yeah, like vaccines really good for humanity. It's like the scientific technology that, oh my gosh, we get to, yeah, vaccines are awesome. I am a skeptic of the way vaccines are done under our current system. You've been trolled. Wait, people have gotten more rational. We just had 4 years of a mean president. Okay, very, very slowly evolving to be more rational over time. All right, fair enough. Trolled Watson channels had to see those Marines in masks. Okay, we got military news today. Rob B. Breathing is now aggression. Yeah, yeah, yeah. GI Mary Jane, is there ever a reason not to go to sex jokes though? Really? Yeah, this is a news show, Mary Jane. All right, we don't do jokes. We don't talk about sex. Those are inappropriate topics that might get us censored. Rob B, who really wants the vaccine anyways? It would be justice if they get sick from the stolen vax. Yeah, that's no. I mean, we don't want to wish ill on anybody. Okay, Mary Jane again. That stunt being pulled by DC weed activists, where they're giving out free ditch weed in exchange for proof of vaccines. Hashtag friend. Oh, that's wow. I mean, I've lived in DC. I mean, for a few years. I'm not surprised that there is a strain of like super crazy liberal in DC where, yeah, we're going to give out ditch weed that probably will give you a headache anyway, because you have proof of vaccine, like free cannabis for vaccinated people. Weird kind of incentivization manipulation. Lucy Cat, I feel like I've been dropped into a parallel universe where no one has ever gotten sick or died before. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like, oh my god, 500,000 people died. If you believe that number, and you go, wait, how many people have died in war? How many people have died at the hands of government? And you go, oh yeah, that's not. Yeah, it's people acting like this has never happened before because, well, one of the vulnerabilities of the paradigm is topics that are taboo, and that allows for manipulation, right? If talking about death as a whole is just a little bit taboo, talking about death caused by government is very taboo, then when government comes out and through the mainstream media goes death, 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 it's like, oh my god, it's a new thing. Yeah, there is a kind of weird effect of the distortion there. And one of the ways that I've been pointing this out statistically speaking is that when people were at the beginning of this going, oh my God, right, remember when we were still counting deaths by the day? When that was a more dramatic number than the total of 500,000 dead? Well, I have to keep asking, well, do you know how many people die in America on a regular day pre-COVID? Do you know we have a population of about 330 million. Do you know what our regular turnover is? 7,500. 7,500 Americans die on an average day just because the population of 330 million, that's the turnover. G.I. Mary Jane and Forbes covered the weed for vax story. It's called Joints for Jabs. Do something unhealthy for yourself and for your community, and we will reward you with something healthy. It is, yeah, it is a dystopian reality we have entered really with COVID. Although, just for perspective here, let's think back. Is this the first time, even just in my adult life, that America has sort of looked at itself and gone, oh my gosh, this is dystopian? No. I mean, look at the response to 9/11. Look at the global war on terror. For a lot of that time, we were going, oh my God, this is madness. We're fighting a tactic of terrorism. All right, we got our first super chat for the day. Caller Nygaard. That show yesterday with Turbine Guy was awesome. Yes, thank you very much for the reminder. If you missed it, yesterday's episode with the interview of Jay Nygaard, the Turbine Guy, was a lot of fun. Caller Nygaard in for $5. Dr. Carl uses heroin and wants it legal, and his argument is perfect. People using it are pursuing happiness, and the right is inalienable. Yeah, well, so this is where as libertarians, we want to look at the world. Like, I mean, I'm covering the news 2 hours every day. I'm not just going to sit here and say, well, the non-aggression principle and self-ownership and property rights and self-ownership and the non-aggression principle and property rights, and you can't violate the non-aggression principle and you own yourself. No, I'm not just going to say that for 2 hours, right? We have to look at the world. We have to apply these ideas. And, I think we go back to that comment. Put that one back up, CJ. What was I responding to there? The thing about heroin. So when we look at the world, I mean, this is something also, by the way, we interviewed Professor Walter Block on Monday, another great one this week. And one of the things that he reminded me of is in all this COVID stuff, we have to be reminded, like, what do we know as libertarians? What do we, as he says, qua libertarian, right? But this, what do we know? What is libertarianism? The concept, at least in the sense that non-violence is better for human happiness than violence. Non-coercive relationships are going to be win-win as opposed to coercive relationships, which are win-lose. The more win-win, the better off humanity is, the happier we all are. Like, what do we know from that about COVID? What is that like? How do we actually apply that? Because that doesn't tell us how much of a threat the virus is. That doesn't tell us whether or not we should be using masks. That doesn't tell us that this whole thing is a hoax and a racket, as Dr. Ron Paul called it. Not that the virus isn't real, but that it's dangerous enough to justify the interactions or the actions of government that just so happen to serve the super rich. Indiana Tones, 2 of my neighbors and over 50 coworkers died. Must be fake. Who are you? I mean, I hear this, and I saw a statistic today. It says like 1 in 3 Americans know someone who died from COVID. Well, not necessarily, because a lot of those people who have died from COVID go to the hospital and then get put on a ventilator and die from the ventilators, because ventilators are being overused, and it turns out they were causing more bleeding in the lungs. But hey, it's a flashy, big, expensive piece of medical equipment we can push as part of this racket. So yeah. But they report them as COVID deaths, and you don't know in those individual cases. Oh, by the way, Marie Evans pointed out Fort Bliss soldiers are refusing to take the vaccine. Yeah, we covered that last week. It is awesome to see that even they can't even get the military really completely on board with this. I remember when I was in the Marines and getting ready to go to Iraq, they wanted to give us the smallpox and anthrax vaccines. And I very covertly snuck out of a few of those, but I was in the minority. There wasn't a vocal objection back then. Groovy Groves 22. As a nurse, I've seen more grandmas and grandpas dying of loneliness and boredom than the CV-19. It's criminal what has happened in our adult care centers. Yeah. So, I mean, when you hear like narratives that prop up the establishment, that justify this racket, the unethical side of it, I'm very skeptical. When I hear information from someone like that, he says, like, I'm a nurse, this is what I'm seeing, that squares with everything else I know. It's not like, oh, here's this thing that doesn't fit, let's pay attention to that and accept that as truth. Let's just use some a rational evaluation, take this new data and fit it into the worldview of everything else we know. And so we've got stories today about the loneliness and the depression. And frankly, I'm fucking sick and tired of saying I told you so about the cure being worse than the disease that we see now so directly with suicide rates and all the other medical things that can be counted. All right, we got another super chat caller. Nygaard having fun today, $2. In Colorado, a gunshot victim was classified as COVID. Yeah, we saw that motorcycle accident guy in Texas, and gunshot wound to the head in the Seattle area. I mean, it's crazy. But let's get on to the next fear-mongering driving this crisis from LA Times, Melissa Healy via Yahoo. California's coronavirus strain looks increasingly dangerous. Quote, the devil's already here. Oh my gosh, it's you're taking this virus, whatever it is, and saying that it's and calling it the devil, as in like the Christian mythology of the worst thing in the universe, the devil, like the root of evil, created by God, of course, which would make God the root of all evil because he is the root of all things, according to that particular mythology. But this kind of it gets this emotional appeal. But let's see, what are they actually trying to scare us with here? Is there any substance to it? A coronavirus variant that probably emerged in May and surged to become the dominant strain in California not only spreads more readily than its predecessors, but also evades antibodies generated by COVID-19 vaccines or prior infection and is associated with severe illness and death. Why is it associated with severe illness and death? Because we want you to associate it with severe illness and death. Have you heard of roads? We should associate them with severe illness and death. Have you heard of candy? People have choked on it. People have died. We should really associate that with the severest of death. But have you heard of this thing called government? Let's try associating that with severe illness and death because it's much more responsible. In a study that helps explain the state's dramatic holiday surge in COVID-19 cases and deaths and portends further trouble ahead, scientists at UC San Francisco said the cluster of mutations that characterizes the homegrown strain should mark it as a variant of concern on par with those from the UK, South Africa, and Brazil. Californians, along with the rest of the country, have been bracing for an onslaught of the more transmissible strain from the UK, known as B117. But they should know that a rival strain that is probably just as worrisome has already settled in and will probably account for 90% of the state's infections by the end of next month. How much you want to bet soon we have people like bragging, our strain in California is deadlier than your British strain. Man, it is so hardcore living out in California where we have the best coronas. Yeah. And with this is, again, something I predicted, not that I was the only one, but that there were going to be mutations, that they were going to be used for fear-mongering and to perpetuate the justifications for intervention in the economy, because that's what it's about, money and power, right? Taking money from people who are being productive and taking it and giving it to the rent seekers and the racketeers. So, I mean, what is this? Chu, who led a team of, this is Dr. Charles Chu. The devil is already here, said Chu, who led a team of geneticists, epidemiologists, statisticians, and other scientists in a wide-ranging analysis of the new variant, which they call B1427/B1429. I wish it were different. But the science is the science. Now, how much you want to bet? Pretty much all the money for this study came from government, right? It's relatively safe to say. So if the science doesn't favor the government narrative, government stops paying for it. And there's one other big factor that, when they say, well, look, we have to explain the rise in deaths and cases. It couldn't possibly be all this crazy social manipulation that we're engaged in. It couldn't possibly be that we're forcing people to stay home. It couldn't possibly be that we're impoverishing millions of people. No, it's got to be the science. It's got to be some new strain of the virus. Right. Okay, so into that cure worse than the disease narrative, WSJ, WallStreetJournal.com. Pandemic loneliness is hitting young adults, especially. Our new research shows rampant loneliness among Americans, with young adults and mothers among the most vulnerable. Here are ways to help. The coronavirus pandemic has caused another kind of pervasive affliction, loneliness. According to Harvard researchers, more than 1/3 of 950 Americans reported feeling lonely at least frequently in the previous 4 weeks, according to a newly released survey by researchers at Harvard's Graduate School of Education conducted in October. That's higher than the quarter of respondents who recalled feeling serious loneliness in the 2 months before the pandemic, and 28% of respondents said they had experienced increases in the frequency of their loneliness. Young adults and mothers felt especially isolated, the survey reported. Social disruption has hit people in myriad ways. A college student living back at home may feel disconnected with their normal social life, while an overworked parent may feel detached from their usual support system. And even people managing to cultivate an active Zoom-led social life may still feel disconnected. But it is possible to take steps to reduce loneliness. Of course, we wouldn't be responsible if we didn't share this part of it. Dr. Weisbord spoke with the Journal about the rise in loneliness and what we can do about it. So without getting too much into these details, I want to skip ahead. What can people do to make themselves feel less lonely? Make a point to check in at least once a week with a relative who lives alone. he suggests. And this is one thing I'll tell you. Like, I don't say this very often, watching Adam versus the Man or doing the show, especially live. But this is stop listening to me right now if you know a relative who lives alone who you haven't spoken to in over a week. Yeah, press pause. I'll be here when you get back. Send a text, make a call, make that connection. And that's not just for you so much as for them, right? Even though this question is what can you do to make yourself feel less lonely? Have a conversation with an employee at the grocery store. And this is kind of I've always been that kind of guy, who when I am face to face with a person and I see an opportunity to make a joke or a connection or just be friendly, I do it, and I don't try to stop people with conversations. But in the age, okay, so like I went to the grocery store in Chino Valley last week, and this is pretty rural Arizona. The grocery store there now, it's only about 10 to 20% of the customers wearing masks. Still all the staff, although most of them are just like chin diaper. But while I was there, like I was looking at avocados, and there were two women there also looking at avocados, and you were I'm like, hold on, don't get that one. That one has COVID, and just telling silly jokes like that as you're interacting with people and making fun of the whole COVID situation. Let me see your smile. Oh, you look so good without a mask on. Or hey, I like making fun of the Karens by imitation. So like we had a little Home Depot delivery here last week. Guy comes up in a pickup truck with some Home Depot stuff for the new house we're building here, and he gets out of his truck, and I go, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't you know that masks are required around here?" And he just like, it's the funniest thing he'd heard all day. He's out middle of nowhere, rural, like this is country, and it's like we're before we're even within 6 feet of each other. But yeah, just being able to make fun of people because they're out there, they are out there, and using that humor to connect with people just on a casual basis. It is really powerful, especially now because with masks, people don't do that nearly as much. And I've even noticed in situations like when I used to wear a mask, or in a few situations where I have had to, I'm even less inclined to talk and connect with people. Like I have to make a conscious effort to stay in that mode of being friendly and continuously connecting with other people. So take extra time to chat with a crossing guard or mail person, enjoying over the fence laugh with a neighbor. It may mean a lot to them too. Quote, a lot of people are so depleted right now, the simple hello can be really meaningful. And one other important part of the story, how can parents help children feel less lonely? And I want to point out, this is not just for parents, because a lot of parents especially are struggling right now and might not have the time and attention that their kids need and deserve. So stepping in as another adult in a situation where you see a kid who's maybe not getting that attention or love or feeling lonely, you can help. The pandemic has disrupted kids' normal social relationships, from school and sports teams to grandparents and friends. Social media can sometimes make it worse. Social media is such a curated self-display filled with posing, and a lot of what they see is how happy people are. That can magnify loneliness. He suggests taking advantage of the many pandemic-prompted online resources now available for kids, such as online art classes, group music lessons, and even online puppy training. Many libraries have created virtual reading clubs and sketch classes for children, and masked outdoor get-togethers with trusted family members. Trusted families can be another good option. No, and I will say this is where the good doctor is fucking wrong. Because if you go to your kids and say, well, shit's really serious and we have to be afraid of each other, but I'm here to help make it just a little bit better, so let's do some online classes. You're teaching kids to be submissive. You're teaching kids to be unthinking. You're teaching kids to be afraid. Fuck that. And there are plenty of ways that you can at least not be afraid and still engage with kids in a healthy, encouraging way. You take them on a hike, right? You go for a nature hike and say, you know what, it's just you and me out here. We're not wearing masks. Like we don't have to do this silliness. Show that, show them some reasonable, adulting. Because right now, most Americans are not being reasonable adults. Betty Spaghetti, I feel the worst for the kids. I can imagine having to grow up like this. Yeah. And if you here's another I told you so that I'm going to get to have in about 10 years, that you are going to see even more longitudinal statistical negative effects coming out from these lockdowns. Oh, I'm back to GI Mary Jane there. I've been passing joints with dozens of people in Slab City all winter. No one got COVID, not even once. I suspect weed and happiness is the actual cure to COVID. Yeah. Yeah, all right. And Ron Helton, I stopped wearing masks over a month ago. Even the stores that insist, they just stayed away from me. That's fine. Yeah, in most cases, if you just say, hey, medical. By the way, I have a little pin in the mail. It says medically exempt with a picture of a mask on it. Should have been selling those a year ago. But there was I think it was Ukraine. Shit, we talked about this on the show before. There was a period in World War II, somewhere in Europe, where there was a starvation period that lasted for a few months. And what they were able to do is, decades later, look at children who had been fetuses during the time of starvation and show that they had a much higher rate of obesity. That specific group of people. And I think right now it's COVID, it's everybody, but you are going to be able to see similarly, like decades later. Why is it that kids who were, between 2 and 6 from, 2020 to 2022 all have this increased rate of anxiety disorders? What we are going to see from this, and this is an unfortunate experiment of circumstance that at least we can learn from, what is the effect of this? And you're going to, like, what ages are vulnerable? What age groups are specifically vulnerable to this kind of manipulation? So from financialpost.com, air travel quarantines are getting longer and lonelier. There is little hope of an imminent return to normal, at least according to Bloomberg here via financialpost.com. Quarantines continue to frustrate travelers and strangle airlines a year into the pandemic, with a threat from highly infectious coronavirus variants, meaning enforced isolations are mostly getting longer and stricter rather than easing up. Even as vaccines embolden countries like Israel and the UK to plot paths to reopening, authorities around the world are tightening the screws to stop COVID-19 mutations slipping through quarantine models designed to contain a less aggressive virus. Oh my gosh, our quarantine models were designed for a less aggressive virus. Now there's a more aggressive virus. We need more aggressive quarantines, more aggressive lockdowns and shutdowns. Yeah, right. Okay. And this is just get ready. Yeah, this is one of the ways that this is going to be used. With questions hanging over the efficacy of vaccines on mutated strains, this new front in the public health battle is damping hopes of a swift rebound in international travel. How long is this going to exist? How long is this going to last? I mean, our next story, theatlantic.com, the most likely timeline for life to return to normal. How long is it going to last? How long are we going to let the establishment fuck us with lies? That's really a better way of asking the question, isn't it? The limits of tyranny are prescribed by the tolerance of the oppressed, as has been said by someone much wiser and more famous than me a long time ago. To the Atlantic story, the most likely timeline for life to return to normal. An uncertain spring, an amazing summer, a cautious fall and winter, and then finally relief. Yeah. The end of the coronavirus pandemic is on the horizon at last, but the timeline for actually getting there feels like it shifts daily, with updates about viral variants, vaccine logistics, and other important variables seeming to push back the finish line or scoot it forward. When will we be able to finally live our lives again? Pandemics are hard to predict accurately, but we have enough information to make some confident guesses. A useful way to think about what's ahead is to go season by season. In short, life this spring will not be substantially different from the past year. Summer could miraculously be close to normal, and next fall and winter could bring either continued improvement or a moderate backslide, followed by a near certain return to something like pre-pandemic life. So this now, links in the notes. I don't want to go into this season by season, but if you're thinking about this, or if you look at this link and you go read this article, I want you to be thinking not like, what are these viral realities? Because there will be more mutations. There will be different strains. There will be more excuses. They can keep them going as long as they want. That's not the question as to how long this lasts. The question is, how long will the people buy it? Or how long does it take to bully us into hazmat suit world? Right? All right, Betty speaking again. I'm not anti-vaccine at all. I just don't want the COVID vax At this point in time, you guys can have mine. Yeah, so that's the thing I was like saying about why are you scrambling to get a vaccine that just allows you to be lazy about your hygiene isolation if that's what you want to do. And why would you rush to that? Why not wait? I mean, you've waited a year. You've done this for a year. Why not do it for another 6 months just to see that this vaccine is safe, right? 7 sons, literally every disease we're told vaccines have cured was already on the decline when vaccines were created and administered. They're garbage and dangerous. Oh, okay. I'll bet there is some truth to that. But from what I know of vaccines, and hey, man, I am totally open to questioning everything. And maybe I need to. Maybe I need to really look into this. Because I said earlier, like the vaccines are good conceptually. Like they're not like inherently good or evil. It's a technology. It's a capability that we have. And, you look at some of the great examples that have been championed, like polio. The polio vaccine saved however many lives. I'm sure that what I know of these things is the mainstream whitewash propagandized pro pharma version of this. So I'm not at all skeptical of your statement, except the totality of the language that you use. They do believe that in a lot of cases there have been. And if I'm wrong, please send me the data to back that up. If anybody has, like if you want to say, no, Adam, you're right on vaccines, there's a lot of bullshit, but at core they're just, good technology, whatever. You let me know. But if someone is saying, hey, no, Adam, you're totally wrong, I want to know. The good news though is that back to the Atlantic. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just jumping into one of the seasons there that we don't need to hear about. But spring summer 2022 is how the story concludes. Of course, this dreamy era is still more than a year away, and some unforeseen obstacle could delay the resumption of normalcy. Josh said, someone quoted earlier in the story, he couldn't picture what that might be, though. After a year spent gaming out how bad the pandemic could get, he can finally see ahead to a time when there are no more catastrophes to imagine. Next, theweek.com, what New York City might reveal about declining COVID-19 cases. As a whole, the U.S. is experiencing its most sustained and significant decline in confirmed COVID-19 infections since the virus first reached the country last year, but the situation does vary by region. Now, one of the things I hate about these numbers being put out like this, and this isn't even a number, right, but referencing numbers, sustained and significant decline in confirmed COVID-19 infection. It would be one thing if we had a reliable reporting system, if we had all the statistics and data in the open, and you could make extrapolations from the number of people getting tested and the rates of positive and negative. And if they were honest about the false positive and false negative rates of these tests, you could factor that in too. So when they say we are experiencing our most sustained and significant decline in confirmed COVID-19 infections, rather than COVID-19 infections are going down, a more rational explanation would be perhaps, oh, you're not putting out test kits as much as you used to. Like this is very controlled, very manipulated. They don't tell you, hey, here's how many cases we believe there are based on this data and extrapolations, and then we can track population-wide beyond what we're testing, right? No, they're like, well, the tests have gone up, positive tests have gone up. And you go, well, are you testing more people? Like, most people don't read the news thinking even just like one layer behind the mainstream statistics. So just that makes you go, oh, well, what you just said is kind of meaningless. We're having a decline in confirmed COVID-19 infections, but by positive tests, but you're not saying that we really have, because it's confirmed COVID-19 infections, not our belief of actual COVID-19 infections. So on Tuesday, the question of why cases in New York City, the original U.S. epicenter, don't seem to be declining as quickly as the rest of the country. Why? Well, of course, there's rich people in New York. They can afford more tests, so they're going to have more positives. They're going to have more corona. Duh. Okay, you're not going to have more corona. You got that little verbal flip at the end there. They're not going to have more corona. They're going to have more positive tests, and then they're going to think they have more corona or be able to convince people that there's more corona there. CNN.com with our next headline, Biden's administration will probably mail out millions of masks soon. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, your tax dollars at work. This is, you know what? They want to tax you to buy a mask to muzzle you so that you don't challenge this narrative, that you accept their bullshit. Because if you don't wear the mask, you're killing grandma. But enough of us know that this is bullshit. If I thought the American people would go for it, I say, well, this is grounds for a tax revolt. They are using your tax dollars to make you less healthy. And yes, while the science shows that when you have a thing over your face, you're projecting less droplets. But if you ask science the right question, hey, does prolonged mask wearing in controlled populations actually increase or decrease viral transmission? You would see from the stories that Ben Swan has shared on this count and the studies that prove this, that extended wearing of masks increases viral transmission. They are doing this knowing, they know this, that mandating masks is going to prolong whatever real pandemic phenomena we are experiencing right now. If the American people go, I would say burn your masks. And maybe that's what we should do. Go to a Walmart, get a free mask, go outside and burn it. I don't know. The American people have to at some point stand up and say, we reject this. Indiana Tones, you wouldn't believe facts if it was engraved on your eyes. Libertarian movement died with all the conspiracy quack. Right. Government's not a conspiracy. No, there's everybody in government is an individual actor. They're not working together and they're not taking advantage of everybody. There's no conspiracy there. Yeah, of course. No, government is not a conspiracy at all. Don't believe those libertarian quacks. WSJ.com with our next headline, COVID-19 vaccine success won't eliminate virus risk. UK concludes the disease will continue to take a heavy toll even if the shots work. Government advisors project. Translation from status talk into regular language. We reserve the right to keep fucking you as long as we feel like it because we're government. And because we're government, we don't even have to apologize. From AFP via MSN, Israel adopts law allowing names of unvaccinated to be shared. Kind of a scary violation of privacy. Not you have to prove that you have the vaccine to do something on my property or in this system or what have you. But no, if you didn't get the vaccine, we're going to put you on blast. That's crazy. Israel's parliament passed a law Wednesday allowing the government to share the identities of people not vaccinated against the coronavirus with other authorities, raising privacy concerns for those opting out of inoculation. This is why I'm a Jew against Zionism. The state of Israel is particularly vicious in its statism control, regimentation of society. It really is a place where we have a lot of disgusting features of statism outsized. However, we can also look to Israel as an example of the advancement of the racket around COVID and how other governments might be using it against their people in the future. Yeah, they learn from the best. All right, so finally, wrapping up our COVID block, the New York Times has this headline. For some teens, it's been a year of anxiety and trips to the ER. During the pandemic, suicidal thinking is up, and families find that hospitals can't handle adolescents in crisis. When the pandemic first hit the Bay Area last spring, Anne thought that her son, a 17-year-old senior, was finally on track to finish high school. He had kicked a heavy marijuana habit and was studying in virtual classes while school was closed. The first wave of stay-at-home orders shut down his usual routine, sports, playing music with friends, but the stability didn't last. The social isolation since then, over all this time, it just got to him, said Anne, a consultant living in suburban San Francisco. She, like the other parents in this article, asked that her last name be omitted for privacy and to protect her child. Quote, this is a charming, funny kid, also sensitive and anxious. He couldn't find a job. He couldn't really go out. And he started using marijuana again and Xanax. The teenager's frustration finally boiled over this month when he deliberately cut himself. Yeah. As the mother said, we called 911 and he was taken to the emergency room. But there they just stitched him up and released him. The doctors sent him home with no support, no therapy, nothing. And that's modern medicine for you, right? Don't treat the root causes because we want you to keep coming back and getting stitched up. So, as Dr. Brahm, quote in this article, says, to conclude, COVID has put our system under a microscope in terms of the things that don't work. We had a shaky system of care in pediatric mental health prior to this pandemic, and now we have all these added stressors on it. All these kids coming in for pandemic-related issues. Hospitals everywhere are scrambling to adjust. And that's our COVID block for today. All right, let's get CJ up on stage here to check in with the audience. Producer CJ, that's a good COVID block, don't you think? Good comments. Good comments. Good trolling. I appreciate that.
Interesting. It's hard to always tell who's going to be the one in the comments that's like, this is a cult. Adam is a shill for the CIA. He's actually secretly pushing the vax. I don't know. I'm on the same page with G.I. Mary Jane today, though, personally. Yep. I'll take the cannabis to cure the loneliness, but it is better with friends. It's certainly better to be with people when you're partaking. So, yeah, comments. I was trying to keep them up on screen to see what people would keep it going. Seven Sons, you don't need to be an infectious disease expert to sift through contradictory propaganda and identify the inconsistencies.
Yeah, thank you.
Whatever Stan's saying here. Rob's finding it funny.
The sigh.
Maria says, fuck it, count me in for this cult. Well, there's ways you can join this cult. Yeah. Yep, there absolutely is. There's a website at the bottom of the screen that'll start you on a wonderful journey.
Join our cult.
Let's see here. I lined up. Stan says they lined up for trains at one point. Now they're lining up for vax. Interesting.
I don't know. So you want to make a statement about people being gullible and compliant. I don't think that's a fair comparison. It's kind of like, Godwin's law, like you lose because you invoked Hitler.
Yeah, maybe. Lucky Cat says government always has your best interest at heart. Because,
best troll comment of the day. Best troll comment.
All right. Yeah. And again, just some good chatter back and forth. What was the cartoon proof of COVID? I don't know what he's referring to there, Rob. Stan says the scientism has become a cult, not a real science anymore, where it was always criticized to make sure the proof of theory.
Yeah. Well, hey, CJ, while I got you on screen, you want to jump ahead to this Robinsburg update?
Okay, so spoiler alert, I did a 3-hour broadcast this morning covering the 3 hours of interview transcripts or interview footage, with Jason, and finding every inconsistency in his words and evidence against what he's saying and dissecting it. And then my internet randomly got shut off. So I don't know if that's going to force a shutdown, but we can see. I forgot which article it was, though. And I'm having an issue with a few things. But, I guess we forgot to do that one, didn't we?
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
We were saying. I'm sorry. You want to go to the Daily Beast article?
Well, let me preface this whole story, CJ, with another statement, because you brought this. I mean, we saw this story, and I think it was you that brought it to the Producers Club, and twice at least, the first 2 times. And at first, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a good story. It's just, but it's a footnote, right? It's not in and of itself like, hey, what's the story? A powerful government politician killed someone by accident and covered it up and got away with it, mostly, sort of. Like that's and abused their power to get a slap on the wrist instead of getting full. Like that's not fucking news. You know what I mean? Like
Adam. With all due respect, that is the whole premise and basis of this show.
No, hold on. No, CJ, what I'm saying, how my opinion has changed on this article, I guess I would have covered it anyway, but it wouldn't have been a priority. There are other examples of this happening all the time, but this story might be a uniquely glaring, offensive example of abuse of government power to get away with involuntary manslaughter. Because we're not contesting that this in and of itself was an accident, right? I mean, that's still
No, it's vehicular homicide. It's a felony.
So you think now it was deliberate, like he actually intended?
No, as in he was distracted.
Okay, but isn't that categorically involuntary manslaughter? Like he didn't intend to kill him.
No, because he was in the process of committing another crime when the act occurred.
Okay, all right. We don't need to pick apart the legal technicalities, but he killed. The fact is, he didn't intend to kill this man. It wasn't like he saw that guy, drove his car into him to murder him. It wasn't a murder. Right. It was a vehicular accident, and he killed homicide. A man. That's a homicide. Sure.
Yeah, it's a vehicular homicide.
Okay, if that's the correct term, I stand corrected. That's fine. But the more we've covered this story like 4 or 5 times now, and every time I'm like, this could be like a real touchstone case that ends up being a gateway for a lot of people to go, fuck this. If you're attorney general, you can kill someone and get away with it? What? And that this might be something, I don't know. I hope it's being received in South Dakota that way. I can't imagine the people of South Dakota aren't blowing this up and making a big deal out of it. I mean, you are.
Right. So here, check this out real quick. Just tell me anything. Just give me 2 minutes.
I listened to them for a while, but I just didn't like either one of them.
Yeah, you said they didn't.
Yeah,
they were not intriguing at all.
Right.
So, do you do both then? Were you on your phone while you're listening to the book?
Usually not. No, it's one or the other. Yeah.
No, just listen to what comes up, because this is roughly at the timestamp where they start to press him on his contradictions.
How much time did you spend looking for your insurance card?
There's a reason why they ask him this. The reason is because
it took a little longer.
The man ended up inside his vehicle.
Because I remember I looked at it, and then it was not the right one. It's like the year behind.
Sure.
And I looked at it, and that wasn't right. And I looked at it a little while longer, and I took it back to the sheriff. And then I said, I don't got the right one. I mean, I think he was writing it out, and he says, hell, nobody's got the right one. Usually I got about 5 of them in the car. He said something to that effect.
Sure. And that was on the visor. The other was in the glove box.
The glove box, yes.
Did you have to take things out of the glove box?
Yes, I had to move stuff around, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you notice anything on the passenger side while you were doing that?
Just glass. I mean, I was staying away from the glass, I guess. Okay. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time.
So when you're doing that, are you leaning over the console?
Yes,
or are you...
from the driver's door, leaning over. Yes.
Okay. So you can kind of see in the glove box,
right.
Which is already popped open.
It's already popped open. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is where the press happens, because he's about to ask about glasses.
Did you see the glasses right next to that?
I did not.
Okay.
You showed me the glasses the first time.
The
first time.
They're Joe's glasses.
I wondered about that.
So that means his face came through your windshield. It's a tough thing.
Oh. I was thinking that his face did not come through, because it would have been I thought there'd been blood everywhere then. Now, I've thought about it.
Yeah, and then you've had time. Right. His glasses are right there, Jason. Those are Joe's.
I did not see the glasses until you showed me.
Sure. So the only way for them to get there is through the windshield. At the impact, did you look over and see anything?
I did not see anything. I mean, it was, again, I then was looking to get to the side. I did not see anything. No. absolutely not. You know, not, and it shattered, and I probably cringed or something, but I was just trying to get it to the side. I did not see him. I did not know there was a human until the next day.
Okay, so
No.
when the glasses are in there,
Just so you know, he has a 73-second
you
redacted.
have a witness.
He has a 73-second redacted video segment in here. So, Adam, what happened is this is all leading up to a climax. So there was 3 hours of this. This is just a highlight that we've been discussing, and they say, and you can ask any question you want. I'm basically an expert on this case at this point, but you know, they go on to say, like, there's no way you could have not seen him or known what you hit that night.
Yeah.
And he has a freak out, a 73-second blacked out, redacted freak out. Now, I mean, again, I'm just saying, like, that has not been released publicly. But when you're looking at this going, okay, so they've caught him in at least 24 lies, right? This is about the part where they start to press him. By the end, it is such a twist and a turn, and it goes all the way to the top, Adam. Kristi Noem is a key player in this game. A key player in this game, in the cover-up of what's transpiring right now with these 3 charges. Like, it's straight up cover-up. It's straight up, they're hoping that this could be swept under the rug. So, of course, somebody like me is going to go, whoop, stop the horn here. But this is a woman that wants to run for president of the United States someday, Adam. And makes no bones about it. So you bet your ass I'm going to cover this story. And if I can get it in front of you and you'll give me 5 minutes of your time to talk about it, sweet. But it is a fucked up story. And, I mean, I'm not from South Dakota. I wasn't born here. But in one point, they ask him, where was your phone? And he takes his hand like he'd have a phone, and he looks like this. They have him on his phone reading an article about Joe Biden and the Communist Chinese Party at the time of the accident. And they walk him down the links. They took his phone, and they could tell him, you were on, we give you 2 minutes to get out, look around, get discombobulated. Hi, 911, what's your emergency? And even then he embellishes his story. And we catch him in all of this. And, I mean, it's just like they say, here's the data points. This is what it's saying, that, you know, you were reading this article. And when he describes where his phone is placed, he's looking down like this, as if his eyes are off the road. And so, you know how like a kid will say, hey, Adam, real quick, let's do a test, our age test. Put an imaginary phone to your ear. What does that look like? If I said put an imaginary, oh, you're old school. You're like, hey, I still remember this. Kids these days go like this because, you know, this is what they're getting used to for phones. So this is for all them youthful translations. A phone, as we used to call it.
This is still a better, more distinct symbol.
You think that until you talk to a 18-year-old Adam Kokesh fan, and he's like, no, 18-year-olds might know this still. But like my daughter, I bet you I could test and go, what's a phone? But anyways, back to the point. That's the sidebar for this. But again, he takes his phone and he puts it like this, as if it's going to the center console. And they basically are saying, hey, we've got you using your phone until the moment of impact. You're off the road. Yeah, they recreate the whole scene, even filming themselves to eventually show the public. Like there's zero chance that a man paying attention could have missed Joe Bover that day. I mean, the experts are saying that even at 100 miles an hour, if he was paying attention, he'd be able to know it's a deer that he hit. And he even admits to have hitting deer before and knowing what a deer impact is like.
Hey, so pull up a picture of his car.
Oh, you want to see the car?
Jason, yeah, I just did this while you were talking. Jason Robinsburg.
I did this morning. I'm already there. So I already have this all tabbed out. So, yeah, you tell me what kind of size hole that looks like, Adam. Does that look like a head size hole where one's glasses could end up on the inside?
Oh, yeah. No, this is not one of the things that I'm learning today about this story is this physical circumstance of the vehicle where you go, there's no fucking way you have an accident like this and don't immediately stop if you're a responsible person. You're muted.
I do that all the time, Adam. It's a habit because I'm always muted during the show anyways. So actually they did. They had to stop. I mean, there's a whole story to this, Adam. And guess what? I've been doing it on my broadcast a whole watch of all 3 hours. I got 1 hour left to go.
Oh,
right,
jeez.
right where, yeah, well, I've already listened to it, but I have to break it down fucking point by point by point to catch him in all of his freaking lies about it. And because the investigators are sitting here basically saying like, hey, we know you made a mistake. They're basically telling him like, this has created a victim. You've committed a crime. And you know the technicalities that got him off, Adam? On just 3 misdemeanors, Adam.
Right.
3 misdemeanors. That's a slap on the wrist. He didn't even resign, for the love of God. I'm telling you, like, this is some next level cover up. And Kristi Noem, he actually says Kristi Noem is going to release this. He predicts it in his own interview. Like, he is afraid of Kristi Noem. He is genuinely afraid of Kristi Noem in this video. Like, she is at the center of what's going to transpire in his life moving forward. He is keenly aware that he is speaking to the governor at this point.
Right. And I think part of what makes this story unique is how the cover-up was bungled in such a way that it really does expose all of these avenues of corruption and the expectation when you're a government official that, you know, you can do this and kind of get away with it.
No, he can't get away with it because
at this point he can't.
No. At this point he can't because he's fucked. The Kristi Noem releasing this footage to people like me, she knew he's going right to the Shark Tank. She knew she was throwing him out to the fishes. That I'm going to sit here and go, all right, I've been saying I told you so for 5 months now. Can I get my I told you so? and again, at the end of the day, I'm not happy that this is an I told you so. Right. But he's on Facebook right now going, this is proof that the justice system works and innocent until proven guilty. And it's like, hold up, player. You didn't even have a jury. You're not proven innocent. You're not even proven guilty. You never had a trial, asshole, and that's where there's a mistake. So between now, those misdemeanor charges, the state can always go, wait a minute, player. We're going to add these counts here because in light of evidence being submitted, I mean, he could very well get a vehicular homicide charge. There's Republicans calling for his resignation. Democrats, of course, calling for his resignation. The Libertarian Party, we all agree. We all agree on something, that this guy should have fucking resigned, that he killed somebody, and that he most likely was distracted while doing it, and in this case, reading about Joe Biden and the communist Chinese. And that's sad because there is a dead man at the end of this story, and yes, it could be you. And this man did everything right. He had a flashlight. They recreated the whole scene. I mean, it was, and in fact, there's even a claim that he knew he hit the guy. He's implicating the sheriff in parts of this. He's implicating law enforcement. It's insane. Like, he's trying to get his fall guy right. So again, I'm going to break it down. I told my audience there that I would go live and do the last hour. I am supposed to be with Devin Saxon, guy running for Libertarian Party of South Dakota chair at our convention. And yeah, I even wore his shirt for my broadcast and he didn't show up, Adam. How's that for etiquette? Yeah. Like, you want my vote, Devin? We can't, we got to get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning if we want to beat big government. Like, you can't just stay up till 2 in the morning and then sleep till noon on a Tuesday. You can't do that.
All right, CJ, switching gears for a second here, and I hate to say this, see this pattern continuing with you and me so strong, but believe it or not, we have another article about January 6th that you could weigh in on here. Forbes, next one in the stack, Forbes, FBI, no evidence, Antifa involved in Capitol chaos.
Yeah, I sent you this. I don't know if I have the link for it. Hold on, I've got a paywall.
It's in the file.
No, I know. I'm the one that sent to you, but there's a paywall where I either got to pay $6.99 a month.
It doesn't matter. Hold on. So here's the thing. This is a simple statement from FBI Assistant Director Stephen D'Antuono that Forbes is running away with because he was asked by reporters if Antifa activists had disguised themselves as Trump supporters during Wednesday's riots. D'Antuono responded, "We have no indication of that at this time." And then Forbes turns it into the headline, FBI, no evidence Antifa involved in Capitol chaos. No, it's not that no evidence exists. It's not that it didn't happen. It's that we don't have evidence. So we're going to present this as fact. And it's just this kind of distortion shows me that this is still being used as a political football and in a very manipulative way. And I think there's something sort of obvious about this. They don't want Trumpkins to be able to escape responsibility for, the worst of January 6th and blame it on Antifa, right?
Yeah, well, I like what Seven Sons has said here. The FBI investigated an idea. That's very, very cryptic of you, Seven Sons, to say that an FBI, how dare they investigate an idea? What can an idea do, Adam? I can tell you what. I don't know if Antifa necessarily. What was the exact wording of the headline? No evidence Antifa involved in Capitol chaos. Having been there, you can't tell me who was there or who wasn't there. And I don't care who the fuck you were. If you weren't there, who was the director? Director Steven. Hello, Director Steven. My name is CJ.
This isn't his fault. This thing in and of itself is not his fault. This is the media asking him a question. He gives a direct answer, and they spin it the other way.
Right. No, I get that. But my point being, there's no way to know. So
right.
And again, you have all their social medias that are like, yeah, we were in that crowd. We helped do this because fuck you guys. And we dressed like you.
I don't know if you have any footage you'd want to pull up to show this, but about of the crowd at the Capitol, how many were wearing masks? Percentage?
Oh, Adam, it was the most American display of American choices you could ever find. Some people were wearing eagle masks. Some people wearing George Washington masks. Some people wearing, yes, there was a few COVID masks, gas masks. I mean, all kinds of face coverings. You could, from sea to shining sea of wave of people, you could find different faces.
Enough that it would have been very easy to blend in.
Oh man, I hate that I'm gonna have to
face anonymous
the rest of my life, Adam. I really do. I hate that. I absolutely loathe that I'm gonna have to do this for the rest of my life. To be like, yeah. So, do we want to take a look at the evidence? Let's take a look at the evidence. Let's go to it. Let me see. I got to turn on my desktop icon. I got to find it. But yeah, no,
that's fine. No, that's fine, man. You want to say it was like 10%-ish of the crowd there, more than enough for plenty of people to be there anonymously? That's enough.
Only 10? You want to say only 10 people were wearing face coverings when they're getting gassed? Oh yeah,
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
so
okay, yeah.
More than that. But this was an anti-mask crowd in part.
Adam, I'm pro-mask if I need a gas mask. Are you kidding me?
All right. It gets better. All right, so we got a big pile of news. Let's blaze through this. Speaking of blazing, our first headline from Market Insider, the first U.S. cannabis ETF surpassed $1 billion in AUM in its first 6 months of trading. Let's translate some of this. The Advisors Shares Pure U.S. Cannabis ETF has surpassed $1 billion in AUM in just 6 months. So that's AUM is assets under management. The fund was the first U.S. ETF to focus solely on American cannabis companies and multi-state operations. The ETF has returned 110% since its inception. Yeah, we are getting to that critical mass of investment in the cannabis industry. Now, our next story comes from TMZ.com because I'm such a fan. TMZ Sports especially. No, this is the last thing I'd ever read of my own volition, but the very top headline on Drudge Report is Tiger Woods badly injured in car crash, first driving video minutes before accident. And it seems like he was just tired, rushing very late for something he was getting to at some golf tournament in the morning and had a really bad crash that might have ended his career. Except for celebrity gossip, not much more to it than that. Gallup.com, LGBT identification rises to 5.6% in latest U.S. estimate. Now, LGBTQ or LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. Not as inclusive as LGBTQ, because Q, queer, would include anything outside of the norm by some people's definitions. But LGBT specifically, a little more precise and measurable. And Gallup's latest update on lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender identification finds 5.6% of U.S. adults identifying as LGBT. The current estimate is up from 4.5% in Gallup's previous update based on 2017 data. And this is kind of a nice benchmark. Like, hey, you got to know, that's about 1 in 20 Americans identify as LGBT. But there is one other important wrinkle to the story, suggestive of a generational shift on this. Surprise, surprise. Not just a cross-generational social trend, but the section on that in the story is LGBT identification not uncommon among younger generations. One of the main reasons LGBT identification has been increasing over time is that younger generations are far more likely to consider themselves to be something other than heterosexual. This includes about 1 in 6 adult members of Generation Z, those aged 18 to 23 in 2020. Now, 1 in 6. What is 100 divided by 6? My calculator on my computer is responding. 16.66, 16 and 2/3%. So, we'll call it 17%. So the general population is 5%, of those 18 to 23, 17%. So they have this breakdown on the chart actually by percentage. And I guess their math is, when they say 1/6, they were rounding up. 15.9% Generation Z identifies LGBT. Millennials, my generation, born, and they actually include me, technically born 1981 to 1996. I'm 1982. 9.1% of us identify as LGBT. Then it falls off a cliff. Generation X, which is like the worst band name ever, 3.8%. Then baby boomers, 2%, and traditionalists. I didn't know that was the actual name of the generation before baby boomers, but yeah, born before I guess it's not generation, it's a category here, but those born before 1946, only 1.3%. Now, interestingly, the no opinion percentages do go up and then down with those generations going the same sequence: 5.2, 8.1, 7.6, 6.9, 8.9. And I wonder if it's just that they're in the older generations, they're so closeted. It's more the closet effect. They won't even answer on the phone because if these things. So general theory on this: if they're biologically based, and I believe that at least from what we've seen of the history of homosexuality and other non-cis sexual trends in human history, that being gay is fucking natural. So, that's unnatural because the Bible says, hello, God made gay people. He must be entertained by something. But the idea that there is a social component in the expression of sexual behavior is also extremely important, because even as we know, homosexuality is incredibly repressed in a lot of societies, and there are still places in the world where being openly gay can get you killed. And that's kind of scary, right? And that in and of itself would be enough to get people to not answer a survey honestly about their own sexuality. But the general trend here is away from that. The general trend is, I mean, are they turning the frogs gay? Are more people becoming gay? There could be a biological component affected by, modern medicine, environmental factors, diet, things like that. But if you assume that the general rate of just homosexuality, just to isolate one specific phenomenon, is consistent over time, then the increase in expression must be due to social progress and acceptance. And that's a really positive thing. And I'll just end by pointing out that, as I like to, props to Mike Shipley, who introduced me to the term GSM, gender and sexual minorities, which from a libertarian perspective is much more important because it's much more inclusive. It doesn't say, oh, well, you have this gay thing or that gay thing, or you're a lesbian. It's, are you a gender sexual minority? Well, you still have all the rights as anybody else. And guess what? technically everybody's a gender and sexual minority. Yeah, if you're really honest about it, I mean, even a cis white male would be in the minority. You're not the majority at all. So this is just something that we can look at and say, it's good progress and take stock of where we are as a society. And it may be that that younger generation, Gen Z, being at 16% identifying as LGBT, is still somewhat repressed. That there may be the next generation being even more accepting, and perhaps humanity will get to the point where we remove that social persecution for sexual preferences. We respect freedom and individual choice, and then we'll be able to look at this honestly and understand humanity a lot better. G Lee, gay used to mean happy. Well, it still does. You make me so gay. Forbes.com, $1 billion class action lawsuit filed against Texas Electric Company after catastrophic bills. Yeah, Houston-based electric company Gritty has been hit with a class action lawsuit seeking monetary relief of over $1 billion after a rash of customers reported astronomically high energy bills after last week's winter storm, even as millions in the state went without power during the height of the deep freeze. The lawsuit claims customers received electric bills as high as $17,000 after the winter storm, saying that amounted to price gouging by the company. Oh, you mean when you signed up to be on the grid, you didn't know you were going to be subject to price gouging? Duh. All right. Yeah, you get what you asked for. One more reason to live off grid. Nationalfile.com, Gab banned from 3 banks in 3 weeks due to media smears. CEO Andrew Torba encouraged conservatives to stop doing business with banks that do not share or support American values. Yeah. And this is a free speech social media platform, Gab, bit of a stretch, has been banned from 3 different banks in 3 weeks following repeated smears from the mainstream media. Speaking exclusively to National File, Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab, said that the new tech platform was banned from 3 different banks in the last 3 weeks alone for political reasons. One of the banks told Torba on Monday morning that they could no longer do business with the site because of all the bad things the press has written about Gab. Wow. Like they got that in quotes. Yeah. Power of the media, right? Or at least it's their excuse. I mean, if the bankers say, hey, you know what? We don't like these people challenging the system. I mean, they're conservatives, but they're anti-authoritarian. They're encouraging people to buy gold and silver instead of and crypto instead of buying into our fiat currency system. Well, what do the people do with the most money at stake do when that is at risk? They spend that money on fucking with their enemies. No shit. How hard is it for a bank to get a story in a newspaper about a rival? Pretty easy. So if they don't just want to say, use that as an excuse, well, the press said bad things about you, so we can't do business with you. Not an argument. Speaking of not an argument, CPAC headline, this you're going to hear about if you're involved in any of the petty bullshit, political back and forth, polarized left-right conversations online. Daily Beast, CPAC yanks speaker after anti-Semitic pro-Pizzagate posts surface by Arya Hojat, breaking news intern. And one of the best things about this is the hypocrisy of it. The theme of CPAC is what is now? I saw this in another story. Oh, why is it not in this one? But into this, it says a planned featured guest at this week's Conservative Political Action Conference with a history of making anti-Semitic and conspiratorial comments will no longer be speaking at the event. CPAC announced Monday. The speaker, who goes by Young Pharaoh, once tweeted out that, quote, there is no historical or scientific evidence proving the existence of Jews or Judaism. It's all a complete lie, completely made up for political gain. I'm evidence of Jews right here. Judaism, there's books about it. There's one big one, one popular one in the middle of it. I mean, this is such an absurd statement. It sounds like a joke. But I mean, these things. This is the false claims about Pizzagate. But it's this cancel culture, right? It's the you said something bad a long time ago, so we can't do business with you. And it's really, it's such shameful manipulation in this cancel culture But what's crazy is what CPAC represents and the embarrassment of this, because CPAC, Conservative Political Action Conference, it really is like if you say there's one big gathering of conservatives every year, like this is it. And one of the themes, I'm trying to pull up the graphic for this, and so like I said, if you're in the polarized left-right bullshit culture or conversation around American politics, you're gonna see liberals gloating over this from now until the event. It's going to be this is like they are salivating now, going, oh my god, we've got this great hypocrisy among conservatives. And as a libertarian, I look at this and go like, yeah, you're right. Conservatives are just as hypocritical as liberals, because what we're talking about is status. People who are willing to use violence and coercion, the threat of violence, to control society, to control the conversation. And we've seen this sort of rise of cancel culture on the left, where it's been a sort of distinct phenomena of someone on the right said something offensive. We're looking for an excuse to not do business with them anyway. Let's do some cancel culture, whatever. But they also have Milo Yiannopoulos confirmed for. Sorry, this is someone replying on Twitter to their cancellation, where Milo Yiannopoulos spoke at the 2017 CPAC. The tweet from CPAC is, we've just learned that someone we invited to CPAC has expressed reprehensible views that have no home with our conference or our organization. The individual will not be participating in our conference. And I would hope that, hey, this leads people to say, well, fuck it, I'm not going to speak at CPAC. I mean, if CPAC invited me to speak, fuck yeah, I'd go speak. I'd go yell at conservatives and tell them how wrong they are about everything, right? And how wrong statism is. But I would hope if we lived in a more rational world, that other speakers going, oh, you're inviting me to CPAC. Well, how do I know you're not going to cancel me, because of something I said on Twitter a decade ago? So here it is. Go, CJ, could you pull up cpac.conservative.org? Because this really is a beautiful, glaring example of hypocrisy that doesn't show, oh, the right is bad and the left is good. No, it shows the right is just as bad as the left. People who are willing to use violence to control society are also willing to use violence and threats and coercion to control the conversation, to do cancel culture. And so the right has been trying to leverage this, putting forth the false narrative that social media censorship, it's all these liberal platforms, liberal-owned platforms censoring conservatives. No, they're really censoring libertarians, and the liberal-conservative fight here is a distraction. But this is the CPAC homepage right now. America uncanceled right after they just canceled one of their own speakers. Yeah, the hypocrisy of statism truly knows no bounds. Next up, Eyewitness News 13. This is scary. Just quick little sort of police state update. I'll kill you. Harris County deputy caught on video pulling gun on man in traffic. Yeah, and apparently this was some weird, just like someone got caught in a funeral procession, stopped awkwardly. Do you want to play this?
He's trained to handle himself as well as other people on the street. So you think his training would help him to not have that road rage. I'm sorry.
George Dickerson and his work partner emerged from 59 to the South Loop around 1:40 Monday afternoon, headed to their next job, and intercepted a funeral procession. Dickerson says the line of cars was in the inside lane and two motorcycle police officers were in the next lane. He says he got in the lane the officers were in, trying to get around the person in front of him.
I just wanted to go around that car. The cop that was in front slowed down, so I couldn't go around. And then the other one came around, and I was like, what's going on? And he's like, stop.
Before he could stop, Dickerson says the motorcycle officer in front of him slammed on their brakes, so he did the same.
And the other guy, he had told me to stop. He had backed up and gotten behind me again. And I guess he was pretty close. And he had to dead stop as well.
Next thing he knew, Dickerson says the deputy behind him parked in front of his work truck on the South Loop.
He gets off his bike with his gun drawn and comes at me. And as soon as I see his gun drawn, I put my hands up in the air. What are they doing out there if they're pointing guns at regular citizens?
The sheriff's office posted this tweet Monday evening saying they are aware of the video and an investigation is taking place. They told me the deputy involved has been placed on administrative duty while it plays out. And Dickinson told me that he does not want, he's glad that he has this on video and wonders how often this happens, and there's no proof of it. The Harris County Sheriff's Office is asking anyone with information about what happened on the South Loop near Braeswood yesterday afternoon to contact their Internal Affairs Division. Dickerson told me that he has not heard from the Sheriff's Office.
Well, I'll tell you why this happens and what was happening that officer said. He knows, and every officer in America knows, you can get away with evil criminal shit, and 90+% of the time, you're just going to completely get away with it. And when you do get caught on video, the other whatever percent of the time, you get a slap on the wrist. What do you get? You got a desk job, paid leave, maybe in some cases, right? Oh yeah, so you got a paid vacation for for committing a crime if you're a cop. And what that does is creates a really warped incentive analysis in every cop's head that has them walking around the streets like they're untouchable. They're the gang. They're the ones who own that territory. A couple related quick stories here. Drug war bullshit, and that's why I just finished season 2 of Narcos, Netflix series. Torrented that. It's fun. It's good show. The story of Pablo Escobar and all the ways that he had like cocaine and money stashed in weird places. So then I saw this story and I was like, oh God, here's one possible explanation. Phoenix homeowners digging in backyard find bag full of guns. Why would someone take a bag full of guns and bury them in a backyard? I guarantee you there's some bigger criminal enterprise involved with this. So this really is, that's the whole story. Phoenix homeowners digging in backyard, find bag of guns. They call the police and they're investigating. Similar story from The Hill via MSN. Seattle woman finds a kilo of cocaine in crochet kit. And it makes me wonder because when they were moving, was it in the 90s even, 372 billion tons, not billion dollars, $372 billion worth of coke into the United States. And, there were like kilo packets being hidden everywhere, all sorts of crazy shit being imported. And even as much as was caught, one of the things that I learned from this video or from this TV series was that a lot of the major cocaine importers deliberately let stuff get caught and said, oh yeah, they're doing such a great job catching these imports, but it's, let 5% get caught, write it off as a cost of doing business, and you can get the rest through. So package of cocaine in a crochet kit, kind of makes you wonder if like at a thrift store, someone was using that as a way to move it, and someone just accidentally picked up a shipment that they weren't supposed to. There's a lot of weird ways that cocaine has been transferred covertly like that. The woman purchased a kit from a shop in the city's Greenwood neighborhood on Sunday afternoon to crochet animal hats. And they've not identified the one, probably for her safety, right? But she said that she found a suspicious heavy item encased in yellow rubber with an odd odor and 100% written on the outside. There you have the picture on screen. She called the police, gave them the object, and they confirmed it was a kilo of coke. So they don't have any idea, or at least they're not saying, how it ended up there. But they are saying, they're going to the story, the incident is not the only time police have found illegal drugs in thrift store purchases in recent days. Now, if I owned a thrift shop and I wanted to drum up business, I might start hiding coke in my merchandise too. Now we go to Central Africa. AFP. Africa forces seize stronghold of ex-president Bozize. Pro-government forces in the Central African Republic on Wednesday seized a stronghold of former President Francois Bozize, who was accused in December of plotting a coup, Prime Minister Firmin Negrabada said. Yeah, interesting story. I hail the capture of the town of Bosangoa by our forces and allies today, he said on Facebook, referring to a key pro-Bozize town 175 miles north of the capital, Bangui. Allies is a term used by Carr's government for Russian paramilitaries and Rwandan troops who are supporting the beleaguered authorities against rebel groups. Never again will bandits disturb people in this part of the country, a senior government official said, who spoke on condition of anonymity. Quote, fighting is still ongoing, but resistance has been broken. The enemy is fleeing. And what more is there to this story other than a continuation of the history of Western colonization, where the African countries are still afraid of allies, Russian paramilitaries, Rwandan troops. Now, Rwanda, obviously, still from within Africa, but where does the money, where do the guns and weapons and organization come from for a lot of these movements? In Africa, where you have countries that, as governments, control significant natural resources and have relatively fragile governments, it's quite easy for the CIA or the State Department to send some money to some Contras or whatever they're calling themselves these days, incite revolutions and fight over power. I think about this in terms of like watching Narcos too. The drug war created the opportunity for there to be this giant fountain of money in Colombia around exporting cocaine. And so, of course, someone's going to, jump on that and be the Pablo Escobar, and people are going to fight over the money, and there's the Cali cartel and blah, 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 right? And so how do I connect this to Africa? Well, it's the same thing. As long as we believe in statism, as long as we create this unnatural monetary fountain or money fountain, literally with fiat currencies, but if we create as society the paradigm of statism that allows for this exploitation, this unjustified wealth and power and the ability to manipulate all the wealth in the world is going to be fought over. And just like in the drug war in Mexico and South Central America, there have been tens of thousands of deaths as a result of this fighting over that power, even in a relatively small African nation like Central African Republic. So with this, I mean, we could talk about American imperialism. We could talk about all the possible counter narratives or behind the scenes stories. We could look into who's really funding what, and you could trace. And I guarantee you, I would bet money if you go back and trace the problems of the CAR and go, well, imperialism, because there's a bigger fountain of money over here, and people have fought more successfully to control, and they can use it to control your resources in your country. And it's the common people who don't want to fight over power who tend to always be the ones who lose and suffer in those situations. All right, USA Today. Mitt Romney says Donald Trump would win Republican nomination if he ran in 2024. And this is one of Donald Trump's most outspoken Republican critics. Utah Senator Mitt Romney believes the former president, would win the nomination in 24. I don't know how honest he's being, but if he is saying that at all, Romney is at least concerned about this. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Romney did run for president before, still wants power, still motivated by that, part of the competing super class. So there's probably some other narrative to this, but at the very least, it's an indicator that Trump is genuinely still a significant force within the Republican Party and has command over a sizable base that at very least, even if Romney is bullshitting, will be a significant factor in the 2024 elections. Now, is Trumpism some brilliant new combination of ideas that empower us to see the world better and live happier lives and organize society for everyone's benefit? No, Trumpism is a passing fad, and it may take decades to pass. I don't want to say that it's insignificant. It's certainly significant, but it is not a new intellectual philosophy grounding worldview. It's Trumpism. It's personality driven, and so to measure its momentum over time is largely based on individuals' opinions and relationships of Trump himself, and those are shifting, fading, falling. 2024, and Trump's getting a little up there in age. If he starts falling off, he's not going to be a contender. But if he maintains his health for another couple decades, and he very well could with today's technology, but not his diet, who knows? He's going to be a force and a factor for at least a decade if he wants to be. All right, next headline, and this is a little disturbing from Business Insider. Pentagon chief says he's looking into deeply disturbing video of a female Marine tearfully calling out the Corps for its reaction to sexual misconduct. Now, this video, I sent the article to CJ at the beginning of the show. it has been it is a little challenging to find. I mean, I handed it off to him when I couldn't find it quickly in the prep for the show. This part of the story is how this message is being censored. CJ, were you able to find that original video with this story?
Morning, I posted a fucking TikTok about how fucking unfair it is that I've dedicated my life to the military and the Marine Corps and everything that I've done, and that I was able to see my fucking perpetrator in court, and how much it fucking sucked that he was being forced out of the military, that he would be getting an honorable discharge. Well, not even fucking 10 minutes ago, I just got word that this motherfucker will be getting retained because it went all the way up across the board. Everybody said that they would not retain him. And the fucking head honcho, the fucking CG, with all of the proof and a fucking admission to guilt, decided that they will retain him. And this is exactly why fucking females in the military fucking kill themselves. This is exactly why nobody fucking takes us seriously. Yo, what the fuck? This morning.
Now, this is a situation, not hers, but just the issue of military sexual trauma that I'm quite familiar with from my work with Iraq Veterans Against the War, and with a lot of female veterans who are coming out and speaking out against the war and militarism, had to speak out against their experiences with rape and sexual harassment within the military. And this woman's story is particularly heartbreaking because it illuminates the hypocrisy of the military when they say, join our ranks. If you're a woman, we'll protect you. If someone assaults you, we'll persecute them. They don't do that. They don't. And in this case, we have, it's a really scary situation this woman finds herself in. And I'm going to do a little victim blaming here. Don't get me wrong, but brace yourselves. There is she is a victim of fraud, right, by the U.S. military. And the U.S. military has, one of the lies of the U.S. military is, hey, we think it's okay to kill people when government says so, but other than that, we're totally honorable and honest, and we'll protect you no matter what, and we'll look out for you if you're a Marine. There's a reason we call it the big green weenie. You got screwed, right? There's so many jokes, sayings, just acknowledging the fact in the Marine Corps and in the military in general that you're a cog in the machine, you're cannon fodder, you're a worthless piece of shit as far as the command is concerned, you're a pawn. But worse, you're a sucker. And in the case of this story, where this woman says that there was a sexual assault, or I believe a rape in this case. I mean, I don't want to get too much into this individual case. Because we might be coming back. This might be like Robinsburg, this might blow up and be, oh yeah, this is the one where this is the story that wakes people up to the hypocrisy of militarism itself, because you go, oh yeah, people who are okay with murder are probably going to be okay with rape. Yeah, no shit. But what's worse than that is that in this case, I think we had a woman who was violated and was told that the guy was going to be asked to leave, that he would, and first, like, this sounds like just the minimum of protecting your staff, your ranks, when there's an assault and the perpetrator is asked to leave. But she was told that he was going to be given an honorable discharge. That's what that's saying is that the Marine Corps. By the way, this is the official tweet about this from at USMC. We are aware of the video of the Marine in distress. The Marine Corps takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. The Marines command that's 2MEF, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force Marines, is taking action to ensure the Marine is safe. She wasn't in danger. Like, it's not like, I'm going to get raped any second now. Like, no, this is just a common thing in military culture, military sexual assault, military sexual trauma, MST. These are huge, regular phenomena. But what we have in this case is not just a woman making a very passionate video, but that we have a case where she was told he would be given an honorable discharge and left the service, and then the Marine Corps changed their position and allowed the man to stay in the Marines. And as she said in that video, saw, quote, "This is exactly why fucking females in the military fucking kill themselves. This is exactly why nobody fucking takes it seriously." And here's the victim blaming part, ma'am, Sergeant. I'm not blaming you for dressing provocatively. You have every right to present yourself however you want without fear of being assaulted. I'm not going to blame you for even being attractive in uniform or perhaps being flirty or any other conduct that you engaged in with your victimizer. That I would just be speculating. I have no idea. No idea. I would never dream of blaming you as a victim for doing something that you have a right to do. But here's where you're fucked up. I hate to have to say this to someone in your position. You're probably not listening to me. But and I'm not trying to make the point to you. I don't think your military career is going anywhere after this. Not because of the military, because of you. And I hope you learn the lesson. Say, fuck this. I'm out of here. I mean, if you're on the verge of killing yourself because of what the Marine Corps has done to you, I hope you don't stick around. But here's the thing. You do not have a right to enlist in the United States military to sign up to kill for politicians and get paid for it. You do not have a right to take money stolen from taxpayers to do evil upon the rest of the world in the name of the United States of America. You signed up to be a part of an evil criminal gang, and you're surprised that that gang victimized you in some way as well? Yeah, sorry. That's where I'm going to blame the victim in order to prevent more victims. Not just you. And this gets to the bigger issue of even PTSD as I have experienced. Do I want you to feel sorry for me because I have PTSD? No. No. Not until you're done feeling sorry for everybody who died in Iraq while I was there. Not until you're done feeling sorry for every mother in Fallujah who gave birth to children with horrific birth defects because of the use of depleted uranium and white phosphorus. This is a travesty. This sexual assault in this case, absolutely unforgivable crime, and everybody responsible for the perpetration, for covering it up, for not holding the immediate violator or violators accountable, should be held accountable. But you're kind of missing the point. If you see a story like this and say, let's go after this Marine Corps rapist. No. Let's go after this government of criminals and murderers, and not be surprised that tragedies such as this sexual assault being swept under the rug until TikTok gets a hold of it are going to happen as a result of this much larger racket. If the mafia can convince you to complain about the suits that they're wearing and not the taxes that they are imposing on you for their protection services, they don't care what you have to say about their clothes. If you endorse the United States Marine Corps existing as essentially a mercenary standing army, as opposed, and an un-American thing, according to the founders who opposed standing armies, preferred a militia-based defense. If you are going to allow this giant gang of murderers to continue to exist, and you think that this one rape is the problem and not a symptom, you might be missing the point. All right, we are just about at time, but we do have a handful of news stories here. Let's see. Some of these are worth coming back to. Some of these are just, there was a freight train collided with a tractor trailer in Texas, triggering a fire explosion caught on video. No injuries. And because there were no injuries, we can look at this and we can laugh, right? Yeah. There's the video. Cool stuff. In Illinois, lawmaker seeks ban of Grand Theft Auto game following rise in carjackings. Yeah, heaven forbid you actually address the problem. Let's just deflect and look good. Oh, sorry. One other story. I meant to do this with the other Texas one. 4 energy board members to resign after catastrophic Texas blackouts during winter storm. Yeah. All right. We'll just we got a couple scapegoats. Good to know. We're going to come back to the Daniel Prude story because we've covered this before. This is coming up in the news again with Forbes headline. Daniel Prude's autopsy report says excited delirium, a controversial diagnosis, contributed to his death. More lies. More bullshit. And maybe tomorrow or Friday, we'll get to the story from Market Insider. Bitcoin versus gold. 10 experts told us which asset they'd rather hold for the next 10 years and why. That's going to be a fun one to get into with your comments. Victory for net neutrality law in California. We'll come back to that because that's a loss for freedom. And justthenews.com. Amazon quietly ends sales of books it labels hate speech. Yep. Retail giant made policy change sometime prior to purging from its store When Harry Became Sally, a book criticizing transgender ideology. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid we have freedom of speech in the world today. And with that, speaking of freedom of speech, CJ, what's your favorite comment from today's show? You're muted. Was that Marine Corps story a little too heavy for you?
No, I was doing some more research, digging, trying to find out names of generals and sergeants and corporals to put over on the screen and just hold them all accountable just one by one. Seriously, that's a deep story, and it is sad that it's got TikTok is where people are trying to get justice. Yeah, just so you know, I have a TikTok. I think it's creative and fun and a great way to message about serious topics. Sure. But I'm not going to take away the power of it. I mean, do I think it's kind of iffy on how they control the flow of information? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is the algorithm, as they call it, pretty scary? Absolutely. But the fact that something like this got blown up, to that level, to now where hopefully it does force a response. So like anything, whether it is Jason Rounsberg or this sergeant in the Marine Corps, being in the Marine Corps, I mean, abuse, neglect, possibly sexual assault and rape. I mean, uncomfortable moments and things with people, situations. I mean, I used to have a dude that would masturbate above me in the bunk rack every night. And I'd just be like, dude, I can't sleep, please. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, he'd just be like, hey, you want to watch midget porn? Like, I mean, honestly, it's just camaraderie, though. Like, I'm not saying that I didn't find humor in some moments or humor in a fighting hole. I'm saying I had, like, some weird experiences where dudes, well, I was in a unit with all men, okay? The only time I was with women were at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where this incident's apparently taking place, where the women were integrated at the engineer school, and then it was division was all men. Now it's changed. The women have integrated into my old unit, and I've since led my old unit, by the way, combat engineers, women leading the way, literally, into the front lines of combat. But I can't imagine being in there now, because even as a young 20-year-old man, I knew that sexual tension is going to lead to complacency, which could lead to me getting killed or somebody else getting killed that is next to me. So, of course, being in a position of being around all men is a little less conducive for me. Women are something to lust after on leave, not to worry about when in the field, when I'm learning how to make bombs and dig up roadside bombs and learning how to do fire maneuvers and all these fun things they advertise, which my feet will pay for the rest of my life as long as my knees, my back. But that's for a VA story for another day. But it is a tragedy. But, but it does come with, you get what you sign up for. You sign the motherfucking contract has never, ever, ever been more true in my life. And I have old corporals, sergeants, gunnies, all the way up the chain, officers, all the way that'll tell you, it's you signed the contract. You can do your 4, or you can, get out the door. And if you want to get out the door, it's with those guys, and they do some pretty weird shit. But to get out, but you can get out. By the way, I contemplated.
Conscientious objector. GIRightshotline.org.
Yeah,
I say it every time I get the opportunity.
Yeah, no, and that's where I figured we'd go with this one today. So, like I said, you don't have to stay in. I'm telling you, I was the guy that used to transport people from the brig to either their unit, back to the brig, or out the gate. Like, a sayonara, see ya, buddy. Like, whatever it may be. Like, if you're going back to your unit, they're going to handle you their way. If you're going out the gate, good luck in the civilian world. That dick's even bigger than the green weenie. And at the end of the day, I'm telling you, the ones that stayed in the brig, some of them are still sitting in there for things they did while I was in. And they ain't never going to see the light of day, some of them. So, I mean, you have the right to get out, absolutely. And there are officers and senior staff enlisted that will forever excommunicate me just for saying those words. Because, yeah, well, you know what? Those were guys that they played a heavy influence in my life. It's hard for me to just say fuck them, but they too do know the truth. So I just kind of look at it like, one day you're going to be on this side of the civilian line, whether you do 4, 22 months, a week, a day. Your story is your story. But what do you expect? Like, again, you sign the motherfucking contract, and if you don't like what you're getting, get the fuck out. I mean, I don't want you next to me either. If I'm truly bought into that mindset, like my life depends on you being able to do your job, I don't want somebody next to me who's like, fuck this, I hate this shit, I want to get out. Yep. I want you out. I don't want my life to depend on your mental health state. Yeah. It betters my survivability in this racketeering military industrial complex chess game of human flesh. But at the end of the day, I'm still in this cog. And when I get out, I'm going to have some fucking opinions. And you earn that status veteran. So I think that it does, while you do label yourself as being a part of it, I think that there are certain sects of veterans that seem to understand that there are ways to readjust from going and conscientiously objecting to something the military is doing or has done to you personally and getting out to where your life is not destroyed. And I think there's got to be veterans on the outside that are proving that, suicide, you don't have to wake up and kill yourself. You can readjust back into a more freedom-loving society. You just can't go back into the militarist statist role and think you're going to find happiness because you're already out the door. They're not making a movie about you. They're not going to write the commercial about you and your story, but ultimately you can help stop the next person from maybe deploying when they shouldn't, following an order they know they shouldn't, and not speaking up when their platoons are getting abused. And so there has to be that avenue. And my last few months being a brig chaser, I heard all the stories. And some of them were tragedies. Some of them we were like, yeah, dude, that was pretty stupid. You were going to end up in the brig, duh. I mean, I have a buddy that I deployed with that got international human and drug trafficking charges because he took a car down to Mexico and then brought it back with humans and coke in the truck, I mean, so everybody's got a story. Everybody. So, yeah, it's crazy, but yeah.
Smoke weed every day.
I think that's the call sign, Adam, to end the show. I think that's what we should do. I think we should just have a timer. And I think that, how, somebody like Dan Bongino has the Rush Limbaugh bell, we should just have the
smoke weed every day.
Well, folks, that's your show. Get your tokes ready, because you know what that sound means. It means
smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go to AdamVersusTheMan.com. Check out the Patreon. Support the show. Sign up for $10 a month. Buy your way into the Producers Club. You get 15% off and free shipping from the store at AdamVersusTheMan.com and the chance to be part of our exclusive editorial team / Producers Club in the Producers Club Telegram chat. You can also join our public Telegram where you see the links from the show every day at t.me /AdamVersusTheMan. Don't forget, you can also support the show buying cigars at cigarfederation.com where promo code Adam10, all caps, 8AM10, gets you 10% off your order. And follow us on Instagram at The Garden of Freedom or my personal page if you want, although that one is really shadow banned bad. At Adam Kokesh or at The Garden of Freedom. That's really a cool album there. We got more photos coming, including Luke Wanke, who he was just playing his music in his car. I had to send him a message like, hey, man, I'm still doing the show. Hopefully we'll get that picture up with him in just a few minutes. All right, with that, there's only one piece of good news worth sharing from goodnewsnetwork.org today. It was on this day, 1983. Congress released a report condemning the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II as grave injustice. Yeah, 40 years later. Imagine that. Finally. Maybe that's how long it'll take us to see the current evils of our current government for what they are. Hopefully, it doesn't take that long. And with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness. Be excellent to each other.